Let me tell you something, and I need you to really hear me. Too many people walk into relationships thinking love is just about chemistry, attraction, or saying the right things at the right time. But real connection, real, lasting love, that comes from something deeper. Because before a man falls for you, before he lets his guard down, before he invests his heart, he's observing, not in a manipulative way, but in a protective way. He's asking himself one simple question. Is this the woman I can trust with my peace? And whether you realize it or not, there are tests, quiet ones, subtle ones, moments you might not even notice, but he does. Let's talk about them. Test one. The consistency test. Let's slow this down because this right here is one of the biggest reasons relationships either grow or quietly fall apart. Consistency. Now, at first, people don't think this is a big deal. They focus on attraction, chemistry, the spark. And yes, that stuff matters. It gets things started. It creates excitement. But consistency, that's what determines whether something actually lasts. Because here's the truth. Anyone can impress in the beginning. In the early stages, people are on their best behavior. They're texting back quickly. They're making time. They're saying all the right things. They're showing interest, effort, attention. But a man is not just paying attention to who you are in the beginning. He's asking himself, is this who she really is? Or is this temporary? And that's where the consistency test comes in. He's watching what happens after the excitement settles a little. Do you still show up the same way? Do you still communicate clearly? Do you still follow through on what you say? Or do things start to shift? Because inconsistency creates confusion, and confusion creates distance. Let me explain something clearly. When your words and your actions don't match, it sends a signal, not a good one. If you say you care, but your behavior is distant, if you say you're interested, but your effort is inconsistent, if one day you're fully engaged and the next day you disappear, it makes a man question everything, not just your feelings, but your reliability. And reliability is everything. See, a man doesn't just fall for how you make him feel in the moment. He falls for how secure he feels with you over time. And security doesn't come from big gestures. It comes from small, repeated actions. It's in the way you show up consistently. It's in how you communicate regularly. It's in how your energy doesn't drastically change without explanation. Because when a man starts to notice a pattern, when he sees that you are steady, grounded, and predictable in a healthy way, he begins to relax. He starts thinking, I know who she is. I can trust this. But if your behavior is all over the place, then instead of leaning in, he leans back. Not because he doesn't like you, but because he doesn't feel safe investing emotionally in something unstable. Now, let's be real for a moment. Consistency doesn't mean perfection. You're allowed to have bad days. You're allowed to need space. You're allowed to not always be on. But consistency means your core behavior doesn't change randomly. It means you communicate when something is off. It means you don't leave someone guessing about where they stand. It means your effort isn't based on your mood that day, because when effort becomes unpredictable, it starts to feel conditional, and nobody wants to feel like they have to guess your feelings. Let me give you a simple example. If you're warm, engaging, and present one week, but the next week you become distant, slow to respond, emotionally unavailable without any explanation, that creates doubt. And doubt is dangerous in the early stages of connection. A man might start asking himself, did I do something wrong? Is she losing interest? Is this even worth pursuing? And when those questions pile up, his instinct is to protect himself, so he pulls back. Not because he wants to, but because inconsistency makes emotional investment feel risky. Now, here's the powerful part you need to understand. Consistency builds trust faster than anything else. Not beauty, not charm, not even chemistry. Trust. And trust is built when someone knows that what they see today, they will still see tomorrow. That your kindness isn't temporary. That your effort isn't situational. That your interest isn't conditional. And when a man feels that from you, when he sees that you are steady, dependable, emotionally grounded, that's when something shifts inside him. He stops questioning. He stops analyzing. He stops holding back. And he starts investing. Because now, it's not just about attraction anymore. It's about stability. And stability is what makes love grow. So instead of trying to impress someone with big, occasional gestures, focus on being consistent in the small things. Reply with intention. Show up when you say you will. Be clear in your communication. Match your actions with your words, because those small things, they add up, and over time they send one powerful message. You can trust me. What you see is what you get. And when a man truly believes that, that's when he stops testing and starts following test two, the emotional stability. Test now, let's talk about something that doesn't get enough attention, but it quietly decides the fate of almost every relationship. Emotional stability. This is deeper than attraction, deeper than chemistry, even deeper than compatibility in some ways. Because at the end of the day, a man is asking himself one question, sometimes without even realizing it. What does it feel like to be with her when things aren't perfect? Anybody can be easy to love when everything is going well, when the conversations are flowing, the attention is there, the vibe is good. That part is simple. But life doesn't stay in that space. There will be delays, miscommunication, stress, bad days, moments where expectations aren't met. And in those moments, your emotional response becomes everything. This is where the emotional stability test happens. He's watching how you react when things don't go your way. Do you pause and communicate, or do you react instantly with frustration? Do you express how you feel calmly, or do you let emotions take over completely? Do you try to understand, or do you assume the worst? Because how you handle those moments tells him what a future with you might feel like. And let's be honest about something most people won't say out loud. A man is not just looking for someone he's attracted to. He's looking for someone who brings peace into his life. That doesn't mean he wants someone who never feels emotions. That's unrealistic. But there's a difference between having emotions and being controlled by them. Emotional stability is about control, awareness, and maturity. It's the ability to feel deeply without reacting destructively. Now imagine this scenario. He gets busy and doesn't text you for a few hours. Two different responses can happen. One response is immediate frustration. You're ignoring me. You've changed. You don't care anymore. The other response is calm and grounded. Hey, I noticed you've been quiet today. Hope everything's okay. Same situation. Completely different energy. And that energy matters more than you think, because one creates pressure. The other creates connection. When your reactions are intense, unpredictable, or emotionally overwhelming, it forces a man into a defensive position. He starts feeling like he has to constantly manage your emotions, like he has to be careful with everything he says or does. Like one wrong move could turn into a problem. And over time, that becomes exhausting, not because he doesn't care, but because it feels like he can never relax. On the other hand, when you are emotionally stable, when you communicate instead of react, when you stay grounded instead of escalating, you create something rare. You create safety, and safety is powerful. Because when a man feels emotionally safe with you, he opens up more, he shares more, he invests more, he becomes more consistent himself. Why? Because he's not afraid of how you'll respond. He knows that even if there's a problem, it will be handled with maturity, not chaos. Now let's be clear about something important. Emotional stability does not mean suppressing your feelings. It doesn't mean staying silent when something bothers you. It doesn't mean pretending everything is okay when it's not. That's not strength, that's avoidance. Real emotional strength is being able to say, this bothered me, but I'm going to express it in a way that builds, not breaks. That's what sets you apart, because anyone can react. But not everyone can respond with control. And that difference, it's everything. Let me give you another real perspective. Sometimes people create problems not because the situation is serious, but because their reaction makes it serious. A small misunderstanding turns into a big argument. A delayed response turns into doubt and accusations. A simple mistake turns into emotional distance, not because of what happened, but because of how it was handled. And a man notices that. He starts asking himself, is this how things will always be? Will every issue turn into something bigger? Do I feel calm here or constantly on edge? And those questions determine whether he moves closer or pulls away. Now here's the truth you need to hold on to. Emotional stability is attractive in a way that goes beyond looks or charm. It creates respect because it shows self-control. It shows confidence. It shows that you are not easily shaken. And people are naturally drawn to that kind of energy. So instead of reacting to everything immediately, take a moment. Understand the situation. Choose your response, not just your reaction, because when you do that, you shift the entire dynamic. You become someone who doesn't just feel deeply, but handles those feelings with strength and clarity. And when a man experiences that from you consistently, he doesn't just see you as someone he likes. He sees you as someone he can build with, someone who won't turn every storm into chaos, but someone who knows how to stand steady through it. And that's when this test is passed without you even trying. Because you're no longer reacting to be understood, you're responding from a place of control, confidence, and emotional maturity. And that kind of energy, that's what makes someone unforgettable. Test 3. The self-respect test now. Let's get into something that truly defines how a man sees you, and more importantly, how he treats you. Self-respect. This is not about what you say. This is not about how confident you sound. This is about what you allow, because whether it's intentional or not, a man will pay attention to your boundaries. He will notice what you tolerate, what you accept, and what you let slide. And through that, he's asking one powerful question. Does she truly value herself? Because here's the truth. People don't just listen to your words. They watch your behavior. You can say, I deserve respect. But if you accept inconsistency, mixed signals, last-minute effort, emotional unavailability, then your actions are saying something completely different. And a man will believe your actions every time. This is where the self-respect test quietly shows up. It's not always obvious. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's small things. He cancels plans last minute. What do? He takes hours or days to reply consistently. How do you respond? He gives just enough attention to keep you interested, but never enough to move things forward. Do you stay or step back? Because every time you accept less than what you truly deserve, you're teaching him how to treat you. Let me say that again clearly. You are teaching people how to treat you by what you tolerate. Now listen carefully, because this is where many people go wrong. They think if they're more patient, more understanding, more available, eventually he will see their value. But that's not how it works. If anything, the opposite happens. When you overgive without boundaries, when you accept behavior that doesn't meet your standards, when you keep showing up for someone who isn't showing up for you, it doesn't increase your value, it decreases it. Not because you're not valuable, but because you're not protecting your value. And a man notices that. He may not say it out loud, but he feels it. He starts to realize she's not going anywhere, no matter how I show up. And once that realization settles in, effort often drops, not out of disrespect alone, but out of comfort, because there's no standard being held. Now on the other side of this, when a woman has self-respect, real self-respect, it shows in her behavior. She doesn't chase confusion. She doesn't accept inconsistency. She doesn't beg for clarity or attention. Instead, she observes and she decides if the energy isn't right, she pulls back. If the effort isn't mutual, she steps away. If the respect isn't there, she doesn't negotiate it. And she does all of this without anger, without drama, without trying to prove a point. That's what makes it powerful, because it's not emotional. It's intentional. And when a man experiences that kind of energy, something shifts. He realizes, this is not someone I can take lightly, not because she's difficult, but because she values herself. And when you value yourself, people either rise to meet you or they remove themselves. Either way, you win. Now let's address something important. Self-respect is not about being cold. It's not about pushing people away. It's not about acting like you don't care. It's about knowing your worth and refusing to compromise it. You can be kind and still have boundaries. You can be understanding and still expect effort. You can be patient and still walk away when necessary. That balance, that's where true strength is. Let me give you a real-life perspective. If a man knows he can call you last minute every time and you'll always say yes, he'll keep doing it. If he knows he can disappear for days and come back like nothing happened and you'll accept it, he'll keep doing it. Not because he's necessarily trying to hurt you, but because you've shown him that it's acceptable. Now imagine a different response. He cancels last minute and you calmly say, hey, I value my time. Let's plan something when we can both commit. He disappears. And instead of chasing, you focus on your own life and don't reward inconsistency with attention. That sends a message, not through words, but through behavior. I respect myself too much to accept less. And that message is powerful because it forces him to make a decision. Either he steps up or he steps out. But what he cannot do is stay the same. And that's the whole point of this test. A man is trying to see, where are her standards? Does she have limits? Will she walk away if those limits are crossed? Because deep down, even if he doesn't admit it, he respects a woman who respects herself. More than the one who accepts everything. More than the one who is always available. More than the one who never says no. Respect is built when there are boundaries. And boundaries are built from self-worth. So don't be afraid to have standards. Don't be afraid to expect consistency. Don't be afraid to walk away from anything that doesn't align with your value. Because when you do that, you're not just passing a test. You're setting the tone for how you will be treated in every relationship moving forward. And the right person, they won't be pushed away by your standards. They'll rise to meet them. Test 4. The patience test now, let's talk about something that most people struggle with, but it quietly determines whether a connection grows into something real or collapses under pressure. Patience. We live in a world that moves fast. Everything is instant. Messages, replies, attention, validation. And because of that, people bring that same urgency into relationships. They want quick clarity, quick commitment, quick emotional security. But here's the reality. Anything real takes time. And this is exactly what a man is observing. He's asking himself, is she allowing this to grow naturally, or is she trying to rush something that hasn't had time to develop? Because rushing creates pressure. And pressure can destroy something that actually had potential. Now understand this clearly. Patience is not about sitting around and waiting endlessly. It's about allowing things to unfold at a healthy pace without forcing outcomes. There's a difference, a big difference, because when someone lacks patience, it shows up in subtle ways, constantly needing reassurance, overanalyzing every small change, pulling for labels too early, expecting deep emotional investment before it's naturally built. And when that happens, the connection starts to feel heavy. Instead of enjoying the process, it feels like there's a timeline, an expectation, a demand, and a man feels that. He may not say it directly, but internally he starts thinking, why does this feel rushed? Why do I feel pressure to figure everything out right now? Can this just flow naturally? Because here's the truth. Feelings grow best in space, not under pressure. When you give something room to breathe, it develops stronger. But when you try to control the outcome too early, it creates resistance. Now let's be real about something. When you truly feel someone, it's natural to want clarity. It's natural to want to know where things are going. But patience means you don't sacrifice the process just to get immediate answers. You don't rush someone into a role they're not ready for yet. Because if you force timing, even the right person can feel wrong. Now let's flip the perspective. What does patience look like when it's done right? It looks like confidence. It looks like calm energy. It looks like someone who is interested but not desperate, someone who is present but not controlling, someone who is open but not rushing. That kind of energy is powerful because it says, I like you, but I'm not going to force this. I trust the process. And when a man feels that from you, it does something important. It relaxes him. It removes pressure. It allows him to show up naturally instead of feeling like he has to meet expectations immediately. And when someone feels relaxed, they become more genuine, more open, more consistent, more invested. Why? Because they're choosing to move forward, not being pushed into it. Now, here's something you need to understand deeply. Patience is a sign of emotional security. When you're secure within yourself, you don't need constant validation. You don't need immediate answers. You don't need to rush commitment to feel safe because you already feel grounded. But when patience is missing, it often comes from fear. Fear of losing the person, fear of being replaced, fear of uncertainty. And that fear creates urgency. It makes you want to lock things in quickly. But here's the problem. When decisions are made from fear, they don't create stability, they create pressure. And pressure pushes people away. Now let's look at a simple example. You've been talking to someone for a short time and you start asking, where is this going? What are we? Are you serious about me? Now those questions are not wrong, but timing matters. If those questions come too early, before a natural connection has formed, they can feel overwhelming. It's like asking for a result before the process has even had time to happen. And instead of bringing clarity, it creates distance. Now imagine a different approach. You enjoy the connection. You stay present. You observe consistency, effort, and behavior over time. And instead of forcing clarity, you allow it to reveal itself. Because real intentions don't need to be rushed. They show through actions. And patience gives you the space to actually see those actions clearly. Now here's the most powerful part of this test. Patience doesn't just show him who you are. It protects you from choosing the wrong person. Because when you slow things down, you start noticing things you would have missed in a rush. You see patterns. You see effort. You see alignment or lack of it. And that awareness saves you from investing in something that isn't right. So patience isn't just about waiting for love. It's about making sure what you're building is real. Now let's bring it all together. A man is watching. Do you trust the process? Do you allow things to grow naturally? Or do you try to control the outcome too soon? Because the woman who can stay grounded, calm, and patient, she stands out. Not because she's doing more, but because she's forcing less. And that energy, it's rare. So don't rush something that has the potential to grow into something meaningful. Let it build, let it develop, let it reveal itself over time. Because when something is real, it doesn't need pressure to become something more. It just needs space, consistency, and time. And when you master that, you don't just pass this test. You create a connection that actually has a chance to last. So now you see it clearly. It's not about tricks. It's not about playing games. And it's definitely not about trying to figure him out every second. These tests, they're not designed to confuse you. They're there to reveal the truth about your consistency, the truth about your emotional control, the truth about your self-respect, and the truth about your patience. Because at the end of the day, a man isn't just choosing who he likes. He's choosing who feels right to build with. And that decision doesn't come from words alone. It comes from patterns, from behavior, from how you show up over time. So instead of asking, how do I make him fall for me? Start asking, am I showing up as the kind of person worth falling for? Because when you are consistent, emotionally grounded, self-respecting, and patient, you don't have to chase love. You don't have to force connection. You don't have to prove your value. It speaks for itself. And the right person, they won't need to be convinced. They won't need to be pressured. They won't need to be chased. They will recognize what you bring and they will choose you naturally. So walk away from anything that feels forced. Stay rooted in who you are and never lower your standards just to keep someone around. Because real connection doesn't come from passing tests. It comes from being real enough that you don't have to.